everybody. Welcome to Grit number 3. My name is Brandon. That guy right there is Aaron. At least he's over there to me. Is he over there to you guys? Aaron, what's up, man?
Another day in paradise. Another beautiful Sunday evening.
So I am coming to you guys from Longmont, Colorado. We are right in Boulder County. If you know where Boulder County is, we are kind of a little bit north and east of Boulder. Aaron is in Virginia Beach, Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, not a state. Funnily enough, the Commonwealth of Virginia, one of what, like 3 or 4 Commonwealths, including Massachusetts, Virginia, something else.
Yeah, I think there's 6 Commonwealths left.
There you
all
go.
at sea level, by the way. Not sitting firmly at what, 6,000, 7,000 feet where you are?
5. I'm at 5.
Okay.
Right here. You're at literally just 5.
Yeah,
just 5.
Maybe.
We're at 5,000. 5.
Yeah, I'm on the second floor, so it is 5.
There you go. So, guys, we're recording this March 27th, 2022, but you will likely see it on Wednesday. We always record on that Sunday evening because we're both guys with kids, and you got to do what you got to do. So Aaron has 3 under 10. I have 1 that's 11 and 1 that's not quite 2. So we got a lot going on, and that's kind of, if you're joining us for the first time, that's kind of part of the whole grit thing, right? It's putting forth effort no matter what you're doing, and like being a dad, and being an athlete, and in your job and things like that, really. So before we get into anything else, though, Aaron and I each have a frosty adult beverage that we will shamelessly plug. Cheers. Right here. Aaron, what do you have, sir?
So I've got a 3-notched double IPA. I figured It was Sunday. It's been a long week.
There you go.
Why not?
I like it. I have got El Gos from Avery Brewing Company right here in Colorado. This is it's a Mexican lager. It's kind of got the Mexican lager feel, but it's a Gos, right? A German beer, and it's delicious. I'll say it's got kind of the citrusy, but also a little salty thing going on. So post run, if you can get your hands on an El Gos with the amazing Dia de los Muertos skull on it, it is phenomenal.
Yeah. So funny enough, Avery's hard to get here in the Commonwealth.
Really?
Yeah. So every time I see it, I try and grab what I can, but it's hard to get.
The brewery is 5 miles from here, from where I'm sitting right now.
Nice.
And Oscar Blues Brewery is not quite 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And
we get Oscar Blues, and I think maybe that's why we don't get Avery, is because we get Oscar Blues.
So if you can have I think it's the Reverend from Avery. No, White Rascal from Avery. It's a Belgian, and I like Belgians. You'll never find me if you and I are hanging out, we're never going to fight over who gets the IPA. Trust me, because I like malty.
Perfect.
And I hate IPAs, like with a fiery passion of 1,000 suns. And in fact, we have a bunch from our wedding. It's still cool and still good and all that stuff, but it will never get drunk because I can't stand IPAs. So,
well, I'll come see you. I'll clear you out.
There you go. I fully expect to get some sort of, that's not true necessarily. I do like Pliny the Elder, but it's kind of like I can have 1 or 2 and then I just get, it's just too much for me.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
Anyway, not a beer podcast, but with that in mind, I do expect to get comments about that. I'm sure, about people that are criticizing my taste.
Oh, dude, everybody who's going to comment right now about how poor Brandon's taste because he doesn't like an IPA, I'm going to tell you right now, every one of those people is going to go drink a Bud Light or a Miller Lite later.
Oh, shade thrown. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Fair enough, right? Like, come on.
I'll take it.
Yeah. You can drink 15 Bud Lights. You can drink 4 IPAs.
Oh, yeah, at the very least. At the very most, rather, I should say. It's just too much. I can do a pale ale, but the IPA, it just tastes like I'm chewing on a vine of hops. Do hops grow on a vine? I think they do. Anyway, so speaking of comments, we've got some comments but not many, because we're just still kind of growing, getting our big boy britches on. We've got a few things that people have commented about. So on the first episode, Cool in Olympia, and she's been actually watching for Gearist from way back, like from way back. So it's great to hear from her. And she was actually saying, "What, a car crash? Oh no!" And then GDK Mouse, and these are all commenters on episode 1. He was actually commenting on somebody who I've been on their show a couple times. It's Ethan, the ginger runner. He said he would know about nutrition as well. And that's fantastic. I'd love to have Ethan on. It's been a while since I've seen him. I miss that dude. Also on episode 1, Geek with a Side of Nerd. These are all their screen names, by the way, because I'm not going to necessarily blow up anybody's real name, unless their real name is their screen name. So Geek with a Side of Nerd says, glad to see Gearist back. Excited for what we're going to see in the future. Steve Spears, run Bulldog run, y'all. He says, great to see you back. Good luck, Aaron. Excited to follow your Leadville journey. And Steve is actually in your neck of the woods. I'm sure you know that.
He is. I've run with Steve a handful of times. We've run some races.
Yeah.
I would say not together, but we've run the same race at the same time.
We were breathing the same air, sort of.
Right. Yeah. So Steve is one of those guys that you'll see him like in this year's like 100 fastest 100Ks or 100 fastest hundreds.
Yep.
He'll be in that list. I think he is on a 20+ run of sub 3-hour marathons.
Yep. He's a fast dude and super nice guy. Like just one of the kindest, humblest guys you'll meet. So it's great to hear from Steve.
Yeah.
So,
and we both hail from the UK. So we've got some shared, he's Welsh, I'm English. So we've got that shared, expat.
How do you hail from the UK? You were born in Virginia Beach.
I was born in Scunthorpe, England, actually. I didn't become a citizen until I was 17, almost 18 years old.
Really? But your accent is so very Virginia Beach.
Right. So you can barely tell, but that's Union Jack.
Okay.
Yeah. All my extended family in the UK, most of them have watched this, and I get the 2 a.m. text message. That was awesome. When you do it again.
I love it. Well, hey, we're doing it again right now. So hello. Yep. All expats and continuing to be British natives. Another comment, Michael Bartlett says, awesome to see you back and the best to look forward to more content. Steve Hensley says, good to see you back. Well, thank you. God, this makes me so just warm and fuzzy. GDK Mouse, again, missed you. Glad you're back. Adam Bundy, love that dude. Whoa, you're back at it. Yes, indeed. Let's see. That's about it for episode 1. Let me check on episode 2 here. Because I want to really acknowledge you guys that are watching and just really participating. It's so fantastic. So I really appreciate it. Let's see. Sean Heslin says, just wanted to say that I'm enjoying the episodes. Thank you, sir. I've recently picked my running back up again after falling off for a few years due to an injury and then lack of motivation. Looking forward to following your journey. And I coming back to him, I was like, yeah, the biggest part of that, there's the fitness piece and I'm dealing with that. Right. But then there's the motivation piece, because if you don't have fitness, like it just saps that motivation constantly. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk a little bit about that when we kind of revisit the week that we've both had. Let's see. And then Geek with a Side of Nerd, again, on episode 2, he actually says, he says, so glad to see the return. Kind of makes me feel like training for a race myself. And I actually said, well, hey, let's pick something for you. And he said it's either Rock and Roll in June or America's Finest City in August. I'm thinking America's Finest City just so he can work on that fitness and build from basically 0 miles a week. And, he can absolutely do that. It's interesting when selecting that race, and just really kind of finding exactly it's kind of like what fits you, but at some point you just kind of got to leap. And there are plenty of races now. Aaron and I were actually looking at some races leading up to Leadville, which we won't talk about today, but we'll probably talk about in a future episode. At some point you just kind of got to rip the Band-Aid off, So his final comment on that, and I said, hey, I'd love to hear what you put together. Check out Heart Rate Based Training. He says, I'll work on an actual weekly schedule, a plan for miles a week, at least 1 speed training day, long run, a couple of medium run days, pushing heart rate. I'll probably have a leg day with weights. My knees always cause me problems being weak. Yeah, and that's certainly, the strength aspect, like I'm 44, we've talked about this before, Aaron. I'm 44, and it's like nothing gets easier. I will tell you that. But when we kind of talk about this week, I'll touch on like where I've been with heart rate training and that sort of thing. And so that strength piece, I notice it. Do you do? Are you? How much? How many squats do you do in a week, if any?
Squats?
Yeah, dude.
I do maybe 10 a day. And that's me like bending over and then standing back up, going,
With a
I'm going to do
child.
a squat right now. Like I'm going to purposefully not put my hand on the ground and just see if I can stand up.
All
Um,
right.
but then that's it. Like, so I've converted my desk to a standing desk. So I'll stand most of the day.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, strength training is not my forte, nor my it's not my wheelhouse, so I tend not to do it. It's one of those things
Yeah.
where, and it's funny, we had a brunch this morning with a bunch of kids and families, and I talked to a couple of dads. I'm like, May 1st, pool opens 2 days a week. Let's figure out 2 days. First thing in the morning, meet at the pool, swim. And
Yeah.
these were guys that have swam, either collegiately or recreationally for years. So they are way fitter and way faster and way more agile in a pool than I am. But I'm like, if I can get two other dads in this similar situation to me as far as like work, home life,
Yeah.
and we can all go to the pool the same day, it's like holding each other accountable. It's Tuesday, 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's go swim 1,000, 2,000 yards, whatever it is. I figured if that's the case, we can hold each other accountable, because if there's three of you, at least one of you is going to get up and say, okay, guys, everyone ready? And then it's like, I'm not going to tell my buddy no today. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to make sure I'm getting out the door and going to do it.
Yeah, and you know, I actually asked GDK Mouse also about, hey, are you gonna use a coach? And he said no. What did he say exactly? He said no coach, just doing it myself. For me, I will say that having used a coach in the past, it's very good because you have that kind of third party accountability. And so like if you're trying to get in the pool, I mean honestly, and I'll say with the caveat, I'm not sure they would allow this, but like if you can find masters swim groups all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And if they would let you come in to just 2 days a week, because I don't know that they would. I don't know if there's like a commitment level, um, those are super helpful because then you can just you've got somebody there who's coaching you, whose job is to watch you and that sort of thing. I find that to be super helpful. Although ironically, when I run and when I ride, I'm pretty well. When I do most of those things, I'm pretty loner y. But having that coach, just somebody that's there, and like this podcast. I mean, honestly, like we're gonna talk about how this week has gone for me, and just having this accountability. Like I sit down here on Sundays and I talk to you guys, to you, Aaron, and to the kind of the broader audience there. That is a huge motivation, accountability factor for me personally.
Oh yeah. I mean, so before my first 100, I made it a point. One of my running partners at the time was an ex South African Navy diver.
Okay.
He now dives for golf balls. Super awesome guy. And not like one of those guys that would do anything for you at any point in time.
Love it.
But he was like, "Hey, let's do something together outside of running." So we would go once or twice a week. We'd get on the incline machine of the gym, do anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 feet of vert, and then get in the pool. And we would swim, and he would do a workout. It would be anywhere from a mile to 2 miles of swimming, but it would be, hold your breath underwater for a full length of the pool, down and back. We do that, a couple times, and then he'd be like, all right, let's do an 800 warm up. And for
Yeah.
that guy, an 800 warm up was nothing. For me, after 800 meters, I'm gassed. And it's like, okay, now we'll do, a 400 IM followed by, then we'll get out, we'll do some crunches, and then we'll do another 400,
Yeah.
whatever. and we'd get, 1,500 to 2,000, 2,500 yards of swimming in. And by the end of it, I'm like crawling back to my car, just, oh,
Yep.
what's happened to my body?
Yeah.
But doing that for like 3 months prior to my first 100 I was in the best shape, bar none, of my life.
Yeah, doing that crush and that swimming is my background. Like that's what I was club team swimming, like super highly ranked, very very fast. For instance, those of you that know swimming, my short course yards, only because this is the only time that I can really remember from back then. My short course yards 50 free was a 19.4, which is freaking fast, right? Like I would give my arm literally because of the surgery to do that today. And that's swimming is by far, in my opinion, I'm a little biased, the best workout that you can do based on the cardio effort, the whole body effort, and then the fact that you don't really get hurt, right? There's not like no one ever talks about stress fractures with swimming.
No.
You may have, I don't know what you would have, some dry skin, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Sore eyes if you don't have goggles for a day. Because trust me,
Yeah.
you swim one day without goggles,
Oh.
your afternoon's ruined. You can't
Oh
see
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I had did a 500 one time in high school, and it was a race, and it was a race against somebody that I actually respected. I wound up winning, but my goggles fell off on the start, and which fortunately rarely happened to me. And I swam the whole thing in a community center pool, which are extra chlorinated because this was in the mid 90s, so it was before the saline thing really was a big deal. But it's extra chlorinated because there's so many more people that are in the pool, being a community center pool. So yeah, it sucked. But awesome, man. Good. That's strength training is one of those things that I I will say look forward to, So GDK Mouse. Sorry, that was Geek with a Sighted Nerd that I was talking about that. GDK Mouse says, Brandon, are you going to do any races? Sorry, excuse me. Before that, William Seay says, "Glad you're back. Thanks, man." But GDK Mouse says, "Are you going to do any races yourself before Leadville as a practice for pacing Aaron?" I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't. We'll see. That's I
To be
just I
fair,
yeah.
to be like 100% fair,
Yep.
you're gonna hop in at 30 mile 62.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to be best case scenario, best case scenario, going to run the last 38 miles slow as shit. Right? Like if I'm running at that point, we're at a
well,
all-star mode.
But it's a time on feet thing. And at the end of the day, I was talking to a friend of mine who I would actually like to have on here one day. I love this guy, Andrew Block. Follow him, Beaker Concepts, Beaker Concepts on Instagram. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see Aaron's username on Instagram handle there, and mine right there. Mine is at Gearist, Gearist. His is ARRONGARROD. Follow us on Instagram. So Andrew Block, Beaker Concepts. He was telling me about Leadville and and pacing people and all this stuff. And this guy is like, he downplays it like crazy. But he's a beast. He's a freaking beast, man. And he said, "Here's the deal. Your job, my job, is to show up and be twice as fit as you, as Aaron, when we get to that point. It's not that I need to be at the starting line twice as fit to run 100 miles. That's not what he's saying. But it's that I need to, and we're going to talk to other people about these sorts of things, right? But it's not just my job to go in there and like put the miles in, right? Because I think that sometimes some pacers can get into the same dark place and kind of like not being supportive because there's so much self-interest, not maliciously, but in that you're struggling too, right? And I feel like some people can be in that place. And he said, it's your job to be so fit that none of that ever phases you, that you're there to mule everything, right? To carry whatever you need so that you don't have to worry about it. and also to mentally be on top of it. And that means the physical part needs to be double where you think it needs to be. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and I can completely relate, and that's the perfect way to think about it, because
Yeah.
you don't need to be twice as fit as me in running 100 miles. Your thing is at mile 62 to be as fit but mentally focused to
Yep.
get me through the next 38 miles.
To be able to really lock in on it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you guys haven't heard, if people listening, if you've not heard Courtney DeWalter on any number of
Mm.
podcasts, but she was on Rogan the first time I heard about her. She was on Joe Rogan's show, and she was talking about, I forget, it was the Moab 240 or something, 250, whatever it is.
The one she
And
won.
yeah, by 10 hours, right?
Yeah.
And she was out there, and she was talking about this experience. I believe that's where I heard her. She was talking about this experience where she's at whatever point she's at in the race, and she goes, "Holy crap, I am so exhausted. I have to sleep." And so she goes to her pacer, and I'm paraphrasing the story, so pardon me, guys, if I'm getting the details wrong. But she goes, "Give me 3 minutes, 3 minutes to sleep. That's it." And he was like, "Done." She lays down, and she crashed out so hard that she woke up, and she's like, "What the hell did you do?" She was pissed. She's like, "What did you do? You just
Yeah.
let me sleep for like an hour." And he's like, "No, bro, that was 3 minutes, you know?" And so, it shows you where the runner is at that point. Now, granted, that's a
Yeah,
250-mile
240
race.
miles is a little further than 100.
A little bit, double and some change. But as well, it shows you where her pacer needs to be like, "Nope, I had you at 3 minutes." Because if he had said, "Sorry, you just looked like you needed it," I mean, think about that funk she could have gotten into.
Oh,
And she doesn't seem like that type of person. Like, she's super chill. But like, think about that mental hit for her. You know what I mean?
well, and for anyone who's run more than 5 miles, you get to a
Yep.
point. It's either at mile 3, mile 5, mile 10, or mile 30 of a run, where
Yes.
you're like, I kind of want to just stop. I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And it's funny how it's right at the beginning, isn't it?
it very well could be. Like, there are multiple days where I'm going out for, like, okay, I got an hour. 3 minutes into the run, I'm like, I could turn
Yeah.
around now and be home in 6 minutes, be
Yep.
fine. And
Yeah.
but it's for me, and I've paced. I've been in pace groups for marathons and half marathons and things like that, where it's very much a jovial, let's bring everyone's spirits up, let's get everyone right. For me, I don't, and this is more specifically for you, but for anybody, I am the don't I don't need a hug, a kiss, and a high five, right?
Damn it.
Right? I'm the
How
hey,
about just a kiss?
I mean, whatever. But I'm more of the hey, we've got X miles to the next aid station. You can grab whatever you need there, but pick your ass up. Let's go.
Yep.
I'm not out here for fun. This isn't like, I'm more of the I need tough love when I get down.
Yes.
I don't need a high five and a hug.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is, and that's uh, that's where I hope to be. So we're gonna not so well, I mean, pretty abruptly switch kind of gears, because there's a whole couple actually of episodes that I want to do just on pacing,
Oh
like the
yeah.
logistical side of pacing, the mental side of pacing, and kind of the intangibles that you can't really plan for, right? Being able to adapt. I mean, look, I've been in races. I was doing my first Ironman where things fell apart for various reasons, but like, I got to a point where water tasted disgusting to me. Like, I just wanted to
Oh,
throw up. Yeah, it was terrible. And then I'm like, and then I was eating oranges because I forget why. So I'm trying to eat oranges for the taste, that tang, to kind of take that edge off of being just inundated with water. And the oranges taste like crap. And so it's like, what do you do? And I'm just going to taste, but what do you do? And there's no right answer. So We'll get into that, I promise. And speaking of, by the way, guys, we just read some comments, and both of us want to hear more comments from you guys. So please ask those questions and tell us your thoughts. I mean, have you guys paced races? Let's hear. Tell us what you've paced. What was your experience? What were the big things? What are things to look out for? And what we can do is we can actually get kind of a mailbag put together for those pacing episodes, because I really, really want that feedback.
Oh yeah, I
So
mean, yeah, absolutely. It's the what have you done to get someone who's either fallen into that dark place
yep,
through to the next aid station, to the next wherever, whether it's a half marathon, a 50 miler, a 100 miler, a 240 miler, transcontinental, what have you.
yep,
I'd love to understand how you can get someone out of a dark place, or
yeah,
how do you slow someone down? Someone
yep.
who's, you know, feeling fantastic, but it's at mile 70 and telling them that running a 7-minute mile is the dumbest thing they could do right then.
Yeah, dude, it's like you got kids, I've got kids. It's that thing where you go, "Hey, Junior, put down the candy bar. You're gonna feel like crap in an hour when you just
Right.
crash out." And they're like, "Whatever, candy, candy, candy." You know what I'm saying? It's you can't, but how do you communicate that effectively? I'm not sure there's a great answer. There may be some answers,
Right.
so we'll see. So we're going to talk today, as I mentioned a second ago, from this. I went in now. I know what I've done in the past for marathon training. We're going to get into this in a moment. I'm just kind of teasing this a little bit. Aaron and I are going to talk briefly about each of our weeks, how it's gone. And then marathonhandbook.com. I deliberately chose that. I'm not knocking those guys. I don't know those guys. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look at, they have 10 rules of marathon training, which has been updated in March. Marathon training nutrition, which is updated as of March 14th. So, yeah, 2 weeks ago, just about. Because I want to kind of go to the baseline. Now, we will look at many, many different sources for this. I'm curious what Aaron's plans are, that sort of thing. And probably what we'll do today, just for time's sake, is go through about half of these, and then we'll save the rest for next time. But before we get there, Aaron, in like summary, sort of, how was your week, running wise, training wise?
Training wise, it was good. It wasn't great. It was good. I did run 2 days, 3 days without a watch, which
Okay.
was, and I always find once I get to where I'm at kind of physically, that mentally I need to start putting the watch down, because I start looking at what's my heart rate, what's my pace, how far am I, and
Yeah.
with the routes around my, like from where I live, I know a 5 mile run, I know a 6 mile
Hmm.
run, I know an 8 mile run, I know. So I've started putting the watch down so I get away from what the data is telling me and less and more around what my body's telling me,
Yep.
which has been good. Um, I ran what, 5, 4, 5, 9, 10, 8 today. So that was kind of my week. It was fairly consistent. Um, all my runs were, they're hovering around like between 8 and 9, 9:30 pace, dependent on how I feel.
Hmm.
So very comfortable. I can run. Good week. I have a good run tomorrow scheduled. I'll probably run twice on Tuesday because I'll run in the morning, and then I get on a plane. I go to Chicago midday. I'll be in
Hmm.
Chicago Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I get to go run somewhere else, which is always awesome. I
Yep.
recommend that anytime you go anywhere from your house, if you're a runner, go run. Best way to find out about a city or somewhere new is to go for a 5 mile run when you get there.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and then come home, and then the weekend, hopefully get in like 20 to 30 miles over the weekend. So
Nice.
feeling good, body's feeling good. Heart rate's coming down, so I'm hovering in like the 140 range for me, which is good.
Good.
If I can get down to 130, 135 for like average heart rate, I know I'm like in peak condition. So
Good.
we're trending to getting there.
Good. Awesome. That's fantastic, man. It's, finding that build for you, you're in much better shape than I am with regard to, I mean, most things, but specifically volume. And that's where I'm kind of trying to, I mean, we have talked during the week, and so here's my week. I am trying to kind of be very conscientious, and the big thing that was very effective for me in the past was heart rate based training. And so that you guys who may be unfamiliar with what that means, it means that you figure out your heart rate zones, and you can break it down into A and B chunks of zones or whatever. But at its core, it's like four zones, right? And so, excuse me, five zones. Zone one, zone two is your kind of, zone one is kind of like where you're just existing, like right now, right? As we sit here is zone one. Zone two is then when you're going to get into that kind of aerobic pace where you're working your heart. You can still talk to somebody. You might be a little, it'll be pretty out of breath when you talk, but you'll still be able to talk. Zone three is more along the lines of it's pretty difficult for you to talk, but you can still kind of have a conversation. Zone four, you probably can't talk much. You get a word out here or there. That's really kind of where you're going to do your speed work much of the time, give or take. Zone three is your tempo work. And then zone five is just kind of all out and you're not talking. If you're talking, it's a
You're
hallucination.
talking, it's because you're dying.
You're saying something along the lines of call an ambulance. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so for me, getting back to heart rate based training because it's static. Because if Aaron is doing heart rate based training and I go, well, Aaron, your zone two caps out at 160 beats a minute, let's say, and it's usually between 10 and 15 beats is a zone ish, right? So let's say that Aaron caps out at 160 beats a minute and his zone two, and he is in Virginia Beach and he's doing a run and he comes out here and he knows for work or whatever it is, and he knows that he has a scheduled zone two run for an hour. Well, it doesn't matter if you're here or there or if it's uphill, excuse me, good Lord, uphill or downhill or fast or slow or hot or cold or what you ate. It doesn't matter. You stick to what the number says. So just because you're flat and you're up here and it's a flat surface somewhere in Colorado, I don't know where you would find that, but you can. There are roads that are flattish, and you go and you run that flat hour. Well, just because you're feeling good, kind of like you were talking about, Aaron, with the pacer and how do you slow somebody down. If you pay attention to that heart rate zone and you go, don't go above 160, then you're not, because you go, okay, I'm getting there. And if that means you need to walk, that means you need to walk, you know? And so this week I've been paying attention to that and getting back to my zone two. And I'll tell you guys, and by the way, you can follow me on Strava. The link to my Strava and Aaron's Strava are in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description down below. Excuse me, but yeah, if you just want that link, just go to this video on YouTube, search for Gearist. I mean, search for Aaron Garrett or Brandon Wood on
Yeah.
Strava. You'll probably find us.
I'm public on Strava, so search my
Same.
name. There
Yep.
aren't many people with ARRON, so
They're not. They're all Arron.
right.
So with that, I did Monday. What did I do? I went Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Okay. Because that's the pattern that I want to get into. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, I lifted. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I did 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles. And I've talked about this before, 5 mile loop. And the idea was not to go super long because I know where I'm at. Now, could I go run 20 miles right now? Probably. Is that the smart thing to do? No, it is not the smart thing to do. So I went 2-2-2, kept that heart rate zone in check. And I got to tell you, by the time I got to today, like my pace has already dropped down from where it was on Monday by like a solid, and I don't like measuring things by pace, but I mean, you know what, it is what it is. My pace has dropped solidly 45 seconds. And obviously that's an unsustainable kind of drop off. But the point isn't that. The point is that I was doing something that was within myself. and I felt good. I got to the end of it. And some of you, by the way, who have ultra legs that are listening to me go, I ran 2 miles and didn't feel like crap. Let me tell you something. Go go over there and you know what you can do.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
point the point is not that. The point is that I needed to stay within myself and find that mentality, and I
Well,
did. You know,
the
you were
hardest
saying?
thing to do when coming back. So I ran, I DNF'd back in last May, 100 miler, and it wasn't that I wasn't fit. It was I had a severe dehydration issue. Like
Hmm.
just couldn't retain any fluid, anything. And then from that, kind of, I came home. Fell into like failure depression. Didn't do anything for, I mean, essentially until January this year.
Yeah.
So gained a bunch of weight, lost all my fitness, and the hardest thing to do for the first 4 weeks is run, but only run a couple miles.
Yep.
Like go for 2 miles. I don't care how great you feel. Come home and relax. Do it
Yep.
over and over and over again. Because if you do that, 2 miles can become 3 miles, can become 5 miles, can become 10 miles. But if you go out and do, I feel good, so I'm going to go do 10 miles, you're going to go right back to, I can't move and I don't want to do
Yeah.
this anymore.
Because your ego says I can go farther. Well, can and should are vastly different paradigms. So,
Oh, yeah.
as you know, and I'll tell you. So today, so I went 2, 2, 2, 5. Today was 5 miles, and it felt fantastic. The only thing that I would say that I would complain about that is that, and again, two things. One, when it came to heart rate zones, my zone 2 doesn't really pivot much. I mean, it is what it is, but my pace relative to zone 2 has increased, and so like mentally, I can't. You don't just go run 30 seconds. Excuse me. Good Lord, I'm dying. I gotta remember to edit that out. You don't just go and you don't just go and ramp it up by 10 seconds a mile, whatever it is, and that accounts for that heart rate offset. You can't do that. So you have to figure out, well, what does this mean relative to that? And that was kind of the pain in the butt because I found myself at a similar pace, but my heart rate was much lower than I had expected. And so I was like, well, I should get more into the meat of zone 2. But what I figured out also was that it doesn't matter if I'm in the meat of zone 2, just be in zone 2. It could be the bottom end, it could be the top end. It's just in that zone, whatever it is. So then it was my feet from a skin aspect. And I was surprised the bottoms of my feet. And what surprised me about that is that like I've skied a lot this winter and a lot of backcountry skiing, a lot of just kind of resort side, so front side, back side. Um, and my feet are pretty tough from that. I mean, they're in a sock and a ski boot, right? So they're not like you're walking around outside barefoot in the summertime. Not that kind of tough. But I was kind of surprised. They felt fine. I didn't get any blisters or anything like that. I wear my Injinjis. I love Injinjis. Those are kind of my go-to, especially for longer runs. But I was very surprised that yeah, I was just kind of surprised they were a little tender. And again, it's just kind of putting miles on feet. I mean, so I just kind of have to keep an eye on that, make sure I don't get cracks on my feet or anything like that. I actually have a kind of a salve that is really good for that sort of thing that I can't remember the name off the top of my head, so I'll bring that at a different show. But so, yeah, it was a really good week. And this week, my plan is to go 2.5, 2.5, 6. And I'm not going to, excuse me, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Actually, I take that back. It might be 2.5, 2.5, 3, 6. We'll see. I have to come up with a really distinct plan that works for me. And then there's the time with family and all that stuff where I'm just going to have to suck it up and start dealing
Yeah.
with early mornings or late nights, which I don't like to do, but it is what it is.
The good thing about this time of the year is it starts getting lighter earlier. So
Yep.
those morning runs start to become less obnoxious. And
Yeah.
it's getting warmer. So I mean, here at sea level, it's getting warmer. But it's starting to get humid. Um,
Yeah. I,
so I
yeah.
mean, I say it's warmer here today. At when I ran, it was 44, feels like 36. But 2 days ago it was 65, feels like 62.
Hmm.
So like it's that balance, right? The Mid Atlantic, the great equalizer when it comes to you never know what you're going to get in the morning.
Yeah. And so here yesterday it was 76 in Colorado at 5,000 feet. Today it was 54. I went
Right.
running.
Okay. Yeah. So
And I mean, we just get that. That is what it is. And then we'll have nights. We still have nights that will be in the teens coming up. A couple, it not much more, but yeah, it's just and honestly, I'm kind of a bitch about running outside when it's hot, and I take that on, and I need to get over that. Um,
oh, I
but it's
can't wait
okay.
to I can't wait till you come to the 757. We're gonna go
Oh,
for
dude.
the hottest, nastiest, sweatiest, just most brutal run
No,
right into horseflies of the state park where you want to go back to Colorado as fast as possible.
no, we yeah. I need to get. I'll say this. In 2016, I was training for a run that didn't wind up happening because it was a stage race with a partner, and they got injured, unfortunately, sadly. Um, but I was training for it, and I would go do runs where I had 3,000 feet of gain over the course of 12 miles, and it'd be 112 degrees outside, and it's fine because I just made myself do it, and that's what it boils down to. Don't get me wrong. By the way, all of you who think Colorado is the frozen tundra, we are not the frozen tundra, folks. Now we had a week earlier this winter where the average high was like 8 for like 2 weeks or something like that. We do get those, but trust me when I say it gets hot. We also have days and nights. So like we've had in a 24-hour period. So from like the high one day to the low the next night or something like that, 36 hours, we'll have swings of 100 degrees sometimes. It's not impossible. I've definitely seen it happen. So it's it can be pretty brutal. So that said, let's talk a little bit about nutrition. How about that? Let me see here. Let me pull this thing up. I should share my screen with you, but I'm not going
You
to do that
can.
because
So what's your go-to like short, like if you're gonna go say 10 miles and take something with you besides water, what are you taking?
uh, I like Scratch a lot. I like Tailwind. To be very honest with you, when I started Gearist and I started getting a lot more things sent over that I wanted to try and to review and what have you.
Yep.
And you'll notice that we don't even historically we don't do too much reviewing in the way of nutrition because my take on it from a I'm like, how do you review that? It's like, well, this I ate or drank or whatever this particular product. How does this taste? Well, my taste might be completely different than yours. You like IPAs, I can't stand them. I mean, honestly, I mean that's a weird analogy, but it's the same thing.
But,
And
oh,
so is it taste? And then is it from a nutrition aspect? You go, well, I had this and I didn't feel as good as when I had this thing. But with this thing, I had pizza the night before. Therefore, I have much more salt intake. Therefore,
sure.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
retaining water better, more hydrated. So it's like, how do you review those things? You can do it purely scientifically and break them down. So there are several things that I like, which is good because I'm kind of ambivalent about many things. Scratch is good. It's good on my stomach, I guess. Um, yeah. So
well, I think that's the most important, whether you're running local 10K half marathon to 100, 200, whatever miles, understanding what your body can handle is the most important. Like, I'm gonna be real honest. I don't care what it tastes like after a certain
right.
amount of time. Like, it's what can I keep in me
Yep.
for calories. because at some point that's what it's about. So I brought my favorites on because
Let's see.
you prefaced me.
Yeah.
So I got
Oh,
some
goo. I love
goo.
it.
So I like toasted marshmallow, orange. So I like the citrusy flavors.
Okay.
S'mores.
Nice.
Very
Very
good one.
citrusy.
You referenced Tailwind. Love the Tailwind.
Tailwind is awesome. It's a good
But
product.
so Goo came out with these guys. I don't know if you had these yet.
Mm-mm.
It's there we go. Liquid Goo.
Okay.
It's like you take the top off, and instead of it being a gel, it's a liquid.
Nice.
Goes down super easy. These are 200
Smart.
calories, I believe.
That's awesome.
100 calories. It's 100 calories, but good. You can get them with or without caffeine, and then pre-run.
Noon.
Yeah,
There you go.
And
There's
I always
also
do the caffeine. I love caffeine.
There's also a new one called Zim, ZYM, which is from the same folks that started Xterra wetsuits, Xterra paddleboards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll see if we can reach out to them. I think that kind of so part and parcel of your kind of display of things just now is having options. You know, because you don't know. I mean, it sounds like you don't. It doesn't matter what it tastes. To me, it doesn't want to matter what it tastes like either. But I try to keep myself out of the dark place, and I put that in scare quotes, the dark place, because once you go there, dude, it's, as you know, so hard to get out of there. And so if I can, even if it's one little thing where I don't have to go, I really don't want that s'mores goo or whatever, not to knock on. I've had the s'mores goo. Yeah. It is awesome. But even if it's just not having that negative conversation with yourself, you just stay away from the dark place, you know? And so I will say, though, that what I always carry, I mean, I use the term carry relative. It's very relative, right? But is Enduralites from Hammer Nutrition or any sort of salt electrolyte pill, right? It's got magnesium, potassium, calcium, any of the EMs, sodium. Carry those and water. Now, that's not going to handle the calorie aspect, right? But it will handle the hydration aspect, because even if everything else falls apart, if you can't retain water, because your body to some degree will fat adapt itself really in a pinch, but you can't adapt to not having water. Like, you either have it or you don't, and you're either holding on to it properly because you're properly electrolyted, or you're not, right? And obviously there are gradations within that, you know, but from a calorie standpoint, dude, I've tried. It's just, you're right. It's figuring it out. And I'll tell you, my first Ironman, which I should have known. I mean, I shouldn't have known better. It was my first Ironman. I was a complete novice. I got very into Born to Run, which we talked about that book last time.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
the book. I get very into chia, which is great.
Oh,
Chia's got a ton of energy, and if you guys don't know chia seeds, so go get some chia. Go to your local Sprouts or whatever. Yeah. You get it on Amazon. I'll put a link to some.
I think at this point, most grocery stores in the baby food section probably have something with chia seeds in it,
because they're high in calcium, high in iron, all these different things. I mean, they're fantastic for you. And what they do is, if you guys are, and again, if you're unfamiliar listening to this, if you put some in like a Dixie cup of water, and you put like a teaspoon of chia in there, it's very lightweight, tiny little seeds. It turns into like sort of kind of like jelly. So you can put it in whatever you want. You could also eat it straight up, but it's a lot like the cinnamon challenge. You'll just cough it out because they're so lightweight. But I tried that, and I forget what else, and it did not go well. Just because I was like, well, I'm going to do this here. And you start, anytime you go, okay, I've got this, and you start doing math, it's not going to work.
Don't ever do math in the middle of a run.
Don't ever do math. It never works, dude. No. So a different Ironman, I decided I was going to use Infinite Nutrition. Now, I forget Infinite Nutrition's website, but I'll put it again in the show notes here. Infinite Nutrition Their founder is Michael Folan, great guy, great product, and you could go on their website and like dial up or dial down
It
what
was
you wanted.
like customized nutrition, right? Customized
Cus-
powder.
Customized powder, and they would mix it for you. So if you didn't want any protein in it, because sometimes if you get hungry, protein will knock that kind of hunger pang off, just a little bit of protein. But you decide, you go, in this serving I want X amount of protein, X amount of carbohydrates, flavor strong, flavor not so strong, and you figure it out. Well, I decided that I was going to put this big, oh my god, it was the stupidest thing in the world. And I decided I had a speed fill, which is this onboard hydration. It's like triangular bottle on on any road bike that goes in the bottom triangle, kind of down near the middle the big triangle, down near the bottom bracket. And there's a hose that runs up in between your hands, and you can drink. Right, it's a big giant long straw. Well, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna put this much water in there, and I'm gonna drink this much of that, and I'm not gonna have what on, like, I hear myself saying this out loud. At the time I was like, this is the most brilliant thing. You guys don't even know what I'm about to do. Now I hear myself talk about it. I'm like, that was dumb.
Dumb.
Dumb. Don't do math. Don't.
No.
And people that go, well, what's your sweat rate? How many milliliters per? Screw you. You're not, listen, you could, hey, I will say this, calculating and understanding your sweat rate is important. But if you're just, and I don't mean to say screw you, I'm sorry if I said screw you to the person that's
I'll
like,
say it. It's fine.
hey, but like, you can't, man. Like, it's an important thing to know, and that's great. But like, as it pertains to being 60 miles deep in a 100-mile race, when you've got 40 miles to go, and you think you're gonna calculate,
No, man. If you can figure out how to get the calories in your body at 62 miles, that's all you need. Get them in. Get them in.
I was doing, this was a Ragnar in Snowmass, Ragnar Trail Ultra. And so when I say ultra, on a regular Ragnar team, there are 8 people. On our team, there were 4, and everybody basically runs 30 miles. Okay. So in Snowmass, and a lot of vert and all this stuff, I saw a mountain lion kill on the trail, and I was like, so kind of delirious. I was like, I wonder if there's any more of that meat sitting around, because that sounds really good right now. Fortunately not, thank God. So,
I mean, good, maybe, probably better that you didn't just kneel over and.
Oh yeah. Well, it was all just the bones and like fur. But I had another friend who was doing an Ironman, Kevin, who I love Kevin, and he was completely fat adapted, so that his his drop bag on an Ironman, because you have a special needs bag in an Ironman on both the run and the bike that are right about halfway through, and it's a bag with whatever you want in it, right? So he had, I believe, like bacon or something.
Oh yeah,
bacon. He was totally fat adapted, no carbs, and I was like, hey man, if you can do it, that sounds horrendous to me.
So this is where, like, in a 50 miler, I can go. I've run a handful of 50s on nothing but like this, right? Tailwind and go.
Yep.
I can go 50 miles, 8-ish hours on just that.
Yep.
Any more than that, I need food.
Yep.
So for me, at least in the races I've run, you always see like cheese quesadillas,
Yep.
mint, pickles, bacon, salted potatoes, things like that, like the aid station staples.
Yep.
I will always go to getting calories from real food in a long race first. Because if my stomach is like, I'm accepting that right now, I'm getting real calories from real food before I'm going to the gels and the goos. I have made like cheese, potato, bacon burritos before, where make mashed potatoes with bacon and cheese, wrap them up in a tortilla, take them on. Like 500 calories in a little gut grenade that you can eat half of, stick back in your pack, and go back to later. So I'm a huge proponent of real food when available.
And eating to taste, it sounds like. Your body will tell you.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. If I get to an aid station and it's like Doritos, like Cool Ranch Doritos and regular M&Ms and like a bunch of stuff that nothing sounds appealing to me, it'll be okay. I'm gonna refill my water bottles or my my pack, take a gel, refill with something that's there, and keep going, because the food doesn't fit what I want in that point in time.
Yep.
But if there's something there that looks, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, a 5, I'm going to take it, because I know for my body, real food is going to do better in the long run than like sucking down another gel, because I know that gel is going to come back and haunt me later, and I'm not going to want to eat it at mile 79 when I need 100 calories to keep going.
And gel, and certainly, I mean, I don't think either you or I are really knocking on those things, but it's like they're just not as complex, right? They're not as like textured, and the flavors aren't as and it's not like mac and cheese with bacon in a quesadilla is super complex, but it's more homey, and there's actually a comforting element to it again. That keeps you away from the dark place, and that's super, super important. So well, so let me say that. So we're already 25 minutes over our normal show length. We're probably just going to eventually have to push it to an hour, but we're not going to address that article this week, because that gets a little more into it does get into like milligrams and macros and all the kind of stuff that we should talk about, but I don't think we're gonna have time to right now. So why don't we agree to bring that back at a later date, and we'll talk about that, guys. But before we kind of head out, I'm curious, based on some of what Aaron and I have been talking about, what do you guys think? I mean, what are your takes on nutrition? What has worked for you? And quite frankly, let's hear the horror stories.
What hasn't?
You decided to do that? Yeah, how did you decide to do math like Brandon? Did you keep a scientific calculator in your pack? Did you just like, hold on a second, and it didn't work out? No. No.
I mean, so tale of two wildly different races, right?
Yep.
150 miler. I stuck to nothing but tailwind.
Okay.
Right. My fastest 50 miler, I hammered the whole time, ran the whole time, got to the finish, crashed and burned, wanted to do nothing but go to the hotel and crawl into the fetal position.
Yep.
Years later, another 50 miler, doing a similar pace, but much more relaxed.
Yep.
And got to a point where I'm like, I'm not feeling that great, but got to an aid station. They had PBR.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. They're like, the one guy's like, hey, you wanna chug a beer? And I'm like,
what could go wrong?
Okay, I've got time. I'm not in first, so let's do it. Shotgun a PBR, and I swear to you, the next 8 miles were the best 8 miles I had that day. And I finished the race. It wasn't my fastest, but it wasn't my slowest race. But
yeah,
it was like I went from putting something in my body because I needed it to putting something in my body because I wanted it, because I knew that sucking down another goo tailwind pickle juice was going to not make my day any better, but it wasn't going to make it any worse. So what could I do to make myself feel better about finishing the run?
Oh yeah. I will say, not for running. Well, not necessarily for running, but sometimes for running, and definitely on the bike. Like I've had this happen a couple times where I've had long bike rides, time wise and also mileage wise, where I went to a Hardee's on the East Coast, Carl's Jr. here. I rode my bike through the drive-through because the inside was closed, and just got a straight up Coca-Cola, not Diet Coke, Coca-Cola. You need the sodium and all the electrolytes in there, right? And the sugar and the liquid. I mean, the water. There is water in there, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I had Coca-Cola. Dude, you feel like $1 million for like an hour.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? Like that, you feel great for a hot minute, and then
Yeah.
the crash comes. Like, that beer did not go
No.
swimmingly for the entire rest of the race, but for a chunk of it, I felt great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. So relative to that, guys, what are some of your? I mean, I'm asking for all these comments. I want to hear your. We both want to hear your comments. So, what are some of your? What are some of your bailout things? Like, what is if you're crashing like crazy, whether it's a food or a drink or whatever that is, and you're in the middle of something, you go, well, I still have a big chunk to go. Where do you bail? Not where do you leave the race, where do you tap out, but what's your bailout nutrition? Is it Coca-Cola? Is it coffee? Is it a beer? I mean, what is it? People joke all the time. People, Arron was having Bloody Marys last week, marathon. So what is that thing for you? But we will get to this article that I mentioned a moment ago next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, please subscribe. If you are watching us on Rumble, awesome. If you're watching us on Odyssey, awesome. If you're watching us on YouTube, fantastic. If you're on Spotify or Stitcher or Overcast or Apple Podcast, any of these things, tell me. Let's talk. Let's work this out. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think. Yeah, please share. Please share, subscribe, and share, right?
Like, what is it? Like, comment, share, and hit the notification bell, right?
The notification bell, because you can't trust YouTube just to give you the updates that you requested to give you. So, Arron, sir, I hope you have a wonderful week coming up. And guys, by the way, I promise we'll talk about gear at some point. I hope you have an awesome week coming up, and keep kicking ass, man.
Rock and roll. Hey, you too. I want to hear next time we talk how the heart rate training is going. So
I will let you know. You can go look at Strava if it's pretty consistent, because I probably do a speed day here this week, so you might see it pop up a little bit. Although I have to say that my pattern has usually been 3 weeks, either 2 weeks build, 1 week speed. So zone 2 for a week, 2 weeks, then build, then so a 2-1 kind of pattern. Or a 3-1 pattern. So I think I might go 2-1. So the following week would be back into kind of like zone 2 speed, and then long. So we'll see. But good talking to you, brother. You guys all be good out there. Have fun with your own training. Let us know what races you're doing. All of these things. And if you want to save these amazing comments for later, that's fine as well. Thank you guys so much. And we'll talk to you next time.